Hello, class. So, last week, a lot of you guys did a good job of doing your work. So, thank you. I appreciate that. Some of you had issues attaching your work. So, to try to re explain that, if on your Google Classroom page, there'll be a button to click Add or Create, and you'll select Google Drive and then select the file and then click Add, and then it will attach the file, and then you'll click Submit. So, that's how you do that for last week's assignments. This week's assignment, I figured out how to upload it so it actually looks like this. When you open Google Classroom, it should create the document for you and it'll be under your work, and you'll be able to click on that document and then be able to start working in there like you normally would. So that'll save the issue of having to attach work and create copies and all that. It should have Google Classroom create it for you. So this week's work is going to go under NTI week 3. Last week's was week 2, and that will be in there in order. So if you missed any of week 1 or week two's work, again, you're allowed to go back and do it, but try to get it done within the week. So by next Thursday. So week 3 stuff should be done by April 29th or 30th, next Thursday, so you don't get too far behind. So last week we talked about and focused on what made Greek people Greek. So we mentioned how they had different city states and different governments, but there were some things that allowed the people on the Greek, like Greece Peninsula, to still be Greek. And those common traits that they shared was they all practiced the Olympics. They all had these same gods down here. They used some common money and had some common language. And another thing that united the Greek people was wars, different wars united. So just to refresh, a city state is a city with its surrounding territory that forms an independent state. So if Louisville has their city, and if we controlled the surrounding area and ran our thing, which we do, we have our city government here in Louisville with the Metro Council and Mayor Fisher, and then Louisville's a city state, and then Frankfurt has their government that's local, and they control the land around them with their mayor, and that's their city state. And then here in the United States, we have our state government. So our states follow directions of the governor of each state, and then our governors listen to the federal government. But for the Greeks, all the power lied in the city state, and each city state could do whatever they wanted. But like we've mentioned, what gave them a common identity was the same gods and Olympics and language. And wars also united these different city states. So the first assignment for this week is going to look at the Greco Persian War, which we talked about before leaving, but it was wars fought between Greece and Persia in the 5th century BCE. So Persia was a power in Western Asia, and they started gaining on Greece's land, and Greece in the different city states united together to fight Persia. So there's a video to watch on that, and then a short assignment to do. And a key thing to think about as you do this assignment is, how can you know what information you can trust? So there's all kinds of information out there in today's common society and from a history point of view. And you have to think about, is it a primary source or a secondary source? So, primary or secondary. So, primary sources provide a first-hand account of an event or time period and are considered to be authoritative, where secondary sources involve analysis, synthesis, and interpretation or evaluation of the primary source. So, secondary sources attempt to describe or explain primary sources. So, a primary source may be a book about the coronavirus. So, if you write a book about your experiences with the coronavirus, then that would be a primary source because you're writing it during that time period and you're experiencing it firsthand. But then if 50 years later somebody reads that book and writes another book about your book or uses information from your book in their book, then their book is a secondary source because they're interpreting or using their opinion on your information. And you'll learn why this is key with the Greco-Persian War lesson because, like I've mentioned before, war or history is typically wrote by the winners. So whoever wins the war typically gets to write the history of what happened with that war. And sometimes people's opinions can get mixed into that. And if opinions get mixed into it, then it may make some of the information not true, which can lead to different issues like false information, and you've heard fake news and all that. So, another thing to think about is like, where do you get your information today? So, today we typically get our information from the news or media, and a lot of times the media we use is the internet. So, different websites and videos. And you need to consider where you're getting your information to determine if it's factual or not. And this is going to be important because the second assignment that you have is about the different Greek city states, and you're going to be doing a comparison. So, the first part of that assignment, you're going to use this reading here, and one of the videos is tied into this reading, and it's comparing Athens and Sparta, and you're going to do this slideshow. So the instructions are the first slide. You're going to research Athens and Sparta and another city-state of your choice. And you can find a list at this link here. So you click on here and it'll take you to a site with some other city-states. And once you know which city-states you're doing, you're going to complete the slides and you're going to use information you gather about your city state you chose, and then from the reading about Athens and Sparta. And then I've got to link the audio file here so you can listen to the reading if you want it read to you verbally. And you're going to take this information and fill out the slides, and you need to make sure that you save the site or track where you're getting the information from because you're going to make a reference slide on the very last slide. And the standards or criteria that are being covered are listed here, but you're learning how to gather primary and secondary sources and determining their relevance to answer these questions. And you're comparing like which sources are good sources and which ones aren't good sources. And you're learning about Greek economy and their roles as citizens and things in each of the city states. So you're going to put your name on this slide, and then you're going to answer about each city state's government. And to give you a refresher on government and different Greek governments, there's this video here. But you're going to answer about the governments, the economy, or how they make money, and type your answers in the box. So when you're typing, you can delete this and then type your answer in. You're going to look at education, what age they started to learn, and what kinds of things they learn. You're going to look at the role of women in each of the city states that you chose. So Athens, Sparta, and then your chosen one. So this is Athens, this is Sparta, and this is your third city state that you chose. And your what slaves' rights were. And again, Athens, Sparta, and your third choice. And then some interesting facts about each one, and then a picture representing each one. And then on this slide, you're going to make your bibliography so you can delete this part if you need to, or you can delete all of it and add your links in. Or I'm going to make this box bigger. You can just add your links to your sites right there. And then to turn it in, you need to make sure that the file is attached. So it should be attached over here on this part of the screen, like that other page. And then you're going to click submit, and it'll open a screen. So as long as the file's attached there, you're good. If it's not attached, then there's directions here on how to attach it. So you may be wondering how you can tell if something's credible or if it's a good source or not. Well, here's linked some tips on how to determine if something's credible or a good source. So this says it can be challenging to determine whether a website you're using is credible, but here are a few things to look for. So you want to look for an author. So who wrote this information? So if it was Dr. Ponder, then it's probably credible because they have a doctorate degree and stuff. But if it's wrote by Jimmy Crackcorn or some random person, then it may not be as credible. And if there's no author listed, then you don't know who's providing it, so it might not be as credible. You also want to see if you can find a date of when the information was published or when the research was done. So you can know if it's outdated information or not, or if it's really recent and good information. You also want to look at the sources. So you want to look at the web address up here. So, and like this says University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. So a college is putting this information out. So that's probably a trustworthy source. But if it was Jimmy's Fish House, then it may not be a good source. And then the domain can also help you with that. It's a .edu page, so like it's an educational page, so it's probably reliable. You want to look at the site design to see if the site looks nice, if it was made well, or if it looks like it was just made by somebody in their garage that might be writing untrue information. And then you want to look at writing style. So spelling and grammar is really important to have stuff look factual. If people are have a lot of typos, or if they're writing and text talking different things, then they may not be a reliable source. Like that could be a good indication that the site might have been made by just some random kid or somebody in another country that doesn't know what they're talking about. So these things will help you determine if the sources you find for your third city state here are credible sources that can be trusted to be listed. So like try to stay away from Wikipedia that can be edited by anybody, and try to find good websites. And another way to find good websites is you can go to Google Scholar, which is a scholarly search engine that'll help you find credible sites if you want to use that. But you need to gather good, trustworthy information and log that information, because you don't want to have bias and things coming into your papers. You want it to be factual and use good primary and secondary sources. And this sort of thing you're going to be doing all throughout the rest of your schooling, and it's going to get harder. And this ties into the Greco-Persian Wars, because the information we have about the Greco-Persian Wars was wrote by Herodotus, who was a Greek. So the stuff he wrote about the Persians may not have been true. So your to-do list, the rest of these will be linked once things get posted, but you're going to watch this introduction video for the week, which will be there. And then you're going to watch the video on the Greco-Persian War. And then you're going to do the Greco-Persian War activity, which there's an explanation to this activity in the video. And then you're going to watch the video of the Athens Sparta reading if you want this read out loud to you. If not, you're just going to read it yourself and use the information for the Athens and Sparta part of this slide and you're going to do the city state comparison activity, which will be posted. And like last week, don't be afraid to ask any questions you have. You can privately post the question to the assignment on Google Classroom, so no one's going to know if what questions you're asking. So even if you think it's a dumb question, go ahead and ask it, because no one else is going to see it besides me, so you don't have to worry about being embarrassed. And I'll answer things as quickly as I can. And I have my virtual office hours, and if you need a meeting, I can have a Google Meet posted. The teacher portal page for me is linked here. I'm working on updating the week 3 stuff. So, like, the focus of week 3 is answering the question of how can you know what information you can trust. And I'll have the different activities linked here again once they're posted as another way to get to them. So, most of you did a good job of turning stuff in for week 2. Week 3 stuff will be under week 3 when it gets posted. Thank you for working hard, and I know this is a tough time, and just stay healthy and enjoy what you can.